Bienvenue. Welcome to a little taste of l'Atelier Stéréo G. Before the official podcast launches, I wanted to share a couple of short audio postcards from my time at the Iceland Field School in Blönduós. Just a few photos, the sound of my voice, and some reflections on the landscape, the wildlife, and the unpredictable joy of making art with nature. Episode 2, Adventure in Eco-Printing. An unplanned eco-printing project in Iceland quickly turned into an exercise in joyful, mad scientist resourcefulness. It started at 4 a.m, racing out into the already bright, always lit landscape to forage. I needed to gather my plants and get back to the dye shed before my downy birch, rhubarb, rowan leaves, and those mysterious little red beech plants had a chance to wilt. Back in the shed, the grand assembly began. It was a specific, very delicate layered operation. First, a sturdy piece of canvas to absorb the tension so my commercial wool felt wouldn't become misshapen. Then, the previously scoured and mordanted dampened wool, the carefully arranged leaves and flowers, and finally a cotton sheet soaked in a weak iron solution. But how do you steam a massive textile bundle when you don't have the right tools? This is where the magic of the Blönduós farm store came in. A remarkably kind fellow there sawed a wooden fence post to the dimensions I needed, something thick and sturdy enough to take the heat without crumpling the wool panel. I rolled my delicately layered sandwich as tightly as I could around that fence post. Then I engineered a magnificent Frankenstein steamer, the biggest pot in the shed, a second pot stacked upside down on the top, and a whole bunch of landscape fabric from the farm store stuffed into the gap to seal in the steam. After about 2 hours of cooking and an agonizing 24-hour wait, I finally unrolled the bundle. The result? Well, the wool was wonderfully, stubbornly muddy. It even picked up a surprise ghost of a purple tinge from something left in one of the pots. But the revelation was the humble cotton sheet. It had captured the prints pretty well, especially the downy birch and the rhubarb. The wool was putting up a fight, but the cotton was ready to play. So after another try, I pivoted. By my third attempt, I really wanted to try for those elusive blue-green tones that only copper can coax out of the plants. But there was no copper in the dye shed. So I looked around and I locked eyes with that awful cheap smoothie blender I had brought with me. A total disaster of an appliance that smelled like burning plastic the moment I turned it on. I didn't hesitate. I stripped the electrical wire right out of it, tossed the exposed copper wire into an empty jam jar with half and half mix of water and white vinegar, and I waited a few days for it to bleed blue. When it did, I had a homemade scavenged copper solution to treat my cotton. I mixed in a little iron, and on take 3, I let the plants do the rest. The results were quite satisfying. I got, out of the whole process, 3 pieces of printed cotton that eventually made their way into our final group exhibition and will likely become part of an art quilt to memorialize my wonderful time in the Blönduós landscape with my lovely Iceland Field School colleagues. It was the perfect reminder not to take my practice too seriously. I mean, art isn't about rigid plans and perfect materials. For me, it's about transformation through process, mastery through risk-taking and experimentation. It's turning a fence post into a printing tool, a terrible cheap blender into a vibrant pigment, and letting nature be your most unpredictable and revealing co-creator. Thanks for walking with me through the trial and error of it all. This was just a small glimpse into the process, and there is so much more to come. À bientôt en l'Atelier Stéréo G.